So hopefully, yes, here she is. I'm gonna bring her on. I am sending you an invite, Miss Dr. Monica Jackson. I'm excited for this author to come in. She's a very powerful. Hey, Lynn, how are you? Very amazing, powerful woman of God. Her story is absolutely amazing. She takes you all the way from start to finish. It didn't bring you on. Let me see. I sent your request, Dr. Monica Jackson. So just come on camera, accept my request. I already sent it. So, no. Hi, Brandon. How are you? So good to see you, Brandon, Lynn. Dr. Monica, you have to accept my request. So you come onto the thing. Hopefully, I do not have to go to the Blue Jeans app. And hopefully, you can just come on the video. Can you see the request? Can you see the request, Dr. Monica Jackson? While she's accepting the request to come on to the live, guys, as you all come in, please like and share the video. Like and share the video. I am going to also be uploading to my YouTube channel. This is Tammy Marie, the Book Whisperer. They call me because I am that girl. Yes. Okay. Wants to join. I'm going to add you. Wants to join. Okay. Approve. Okay. I just approved it, Dr. Monica Jackson. Yes. She's coming on here. I'm excited because the last couple of weeks we've been having technical difficulties with God. So say something so I can hear you.
Hey, dear.
I can hear you, but barely.
Okay, let me try to see what I can do because I have my earpiece on.
Okay, are you able to take out your earpiece and see if I'm able to hear you from your earpiece?
Okay.
And just connect it to your phone. Hello, everybody that's coming in. This is Dr. Monica Jackson. I can't even say her name. Girl, why can't I say your name? Miss Jackson, if you're nasty.
Nasty.
Wounds of Wisdom. She's the author of Wounds of Wisdom. I'm excited to dive into this. This cover gets me every time. Can you say something?
Good evening. Can you hear me better now?
No, but you know what? I can hear you better than I heard everybody else last week.
Okay.
That's why I didn't get to do the show last week. I don't know what's going on. But I know the audience can hear you because when I couldn't hear, they can hear you. So if you guys can hear us, put in the comments, yes. If you can hear us. If you can hear Dr. Monica Jackson. I don't know why I can't say your name all of a sudden. Jesus. But we are going to dive into this thing. I'm excited about this author. Can you put your book up again? Wounds of Wisdom. So we're going to come from that cover gets me every single time. I've never seen a cover like it. I don't know where you got this idea from. Can you give us an overview of Wounds of Wisdom?
Well, where I got let me start with the first question. Where I got the cover from is I literally was standing in the mirror and crying. My mascara was falling off. So I took a picture of myself in the mirror. And as I was crying about all these different wounds that I've experienced. Friends' wounds, workplace wounds, church wounds, family wounds, business wounds, children's wounds, and marriage and divorce wounds. So that's where the cover came about. Now, a little bit about the book, Wounds of Wisdom. This book was written in 2021 after I lost so many contracts during COVID and just at a total loss. So I felt like God literally was saying, okay, enough is enough. You've been dealing with these wounds too long. It's enough of this, and stop crying over things you can't change, that you have no control over. And I just felt that. And so literally for 7 days, I felt a nudge. I felt this need to write. I'm a journalist. I journal by nature, but what was happening is I would get up very early in the morning and just go to the computer and just type, just write. And I just felt like, I know it's gonna sound a little gross, but when you think of a child that literally regurgitates and, vomits and throws up, I felt like that's what was coming out of me. It was all the toxins. It was all these wounds that I was writing about. And I did this for like 8 hours a day for 7 days. And I didn't know what it was. And so I spoke to some people and asked them to read it. And they go, oh my gosh, you have to publish this. Someone else told me this was what God was literally pouring out of me and telling me to get it out. And I said, okay, if that's what you say. So literally the book was written in 7 days. It has 7 chapters, and that's how this book emerged.
Wow. I was going to ask you, can you tell us about your journey and how you became known as the unapologetic, authentic encourager? I mean, that's a mouthful in itself. Unapologetically authentic encourager.
Unapologetic, because I've always been an outspoken person. However, when you are confident, when you don't put up with the BS, so to speak, when you don't mind speaking your truths and it's true, a lot of people will try to suppress your voice. A lot of people will make you feel like something's wrong with you. When you are too strong, and I'm not saying that you have to be strong. The thing about it is, when God gives you confidence, walk in that confidence. Walk in that confidence. And don't let anybody deter you or tell you what you shouldn't be, or that you should be more docile. You should be, you shouldn't say things a certain way, because a lot of people wear their feelings on their sleeves, but I'm not responsible for anyone's feelings. And now that's it. May sound harsh to some people, but I'm not responsible for anyone's feelings because I have no control over it. I can only be my authentic self, who I am. First and foremost, I have to know who I am. And a lot of people don't know who they are. So you have to discover who you are, be who you are. And when you know you're being who you are not concerned about who likes you, who doesn't like you, who doesn't like the way you said something, because you're never going to say something the way everybody likes it.
I was just having this conversation with a friend about just being authentically you, being authentic to who God called you to be, because at the end of the day, you'll be more happy. You'll be more happy in being you versus trying to be expelling all this energy trying to be something that you're not. Because you expel more energy when you're trying to do this or do that and trying to please people instead of pleasing God. Because if God is not your accountability partner, I don't want you in my life as a friend in any capacity, any type of relationship, because if I don't want to be your accountability partner, okay, I need you to allow God to do that. That's good. Okay, so with over 25 years of experience in various fields, because I read your book and I read your biography and things like that. You have experience in various fields. How has your background in public speaking, writing, educational technology, and leadership shape your approach to empowering empowering and inspiring others?
Great. You know what? Before I answer that, I want to go back to a comment that you just made. And we talk about God. I grew up in the church all my life. And because of my major wound, one of my major wounds is literally church wounds. And so I had to literally unlearn the things that I have learned when it comes to being in the church. I personally have had, because of my wounds and misguidance and mislearnings and misunderstandings, still trying to learn and understand, I don't equate church and God anymore. I found God more outside of the church than I did inside of the church. And that was a difficult thing for me to state and deal with, because I was raised in the church. I grew up in the church. But for all of my life, I didn't see anybody walking the walk, just talking the talk. So the wounds that I've experienced, I've never questioned God I question the teachings of God. So as I sit here at 58 years old, I'm still looking, say, okay, God, is this you? God, you need to speak very clearly to me. I don't put words in God's mouth anymore. I watch what I say. Even with quoting scriptures, I'm very cautious because there are things that I don't know. I can no longer say some things that I don't know and mislead or misguide anybody because of my lack of knowledge. Now, I did go to school of ministry for 2 years. Did I come out with it in a better understanding than I went in? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And so I live my authentic self, following my gut and my instinct, what I believe God gave us all a mind to think. And that's what I use. So when you talk about my background in technology and education and all of this, I believe that all of that has propelled me to where I am. Education allowed me to be in leadership. It allowed me to see both sides of the fence, the good, the bad, and the ugly of things. I've seen a lot of things in technology. We're dealing with racism, sexism, all these isms, and being able to talk about those things authentically, the truth, and voice that. Because the problem is a lot of us have sat silent because people want to suppress our voice or want us to conform and fit into their narrative that when we start speaking, you realize there are more people who have experienced what you've experienced than not. But if we sit silent, we will never know. And we will always be controlled and conformed in silence.
Girl, listen, you. First and foremost, let's recognize Marcia. You said a mouthful. I want to go all. Hey, Marcia, how are you, girl? I don't know how you got up in here, but girl, it is nice to see you. How are you?
Well, hey, I just want to say I don't know what the front end was, but the tail end was good.
Okay.
While you here, like and share the video. But I'm having we at the Authors Roundtable with Miss Dr. Hey, Caitlin, how are you? With Dr. Monica Jackson with her book, Wounds of Wisdom. I love the wisdom that you were speaking earlier, and you said you met God outside of the church. See, what we need to understand is, I debunk our religion, because what we need to understand is we're gonna meet God where we meet God, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not a building, because we are the church, we are the building, we are, and God is the architect of this building if we allow Him to be the architect. Right. And we have to stop equating religion, like you said earlier, because I tell my students that stop equating God to religion, because God is not a religion. God is God all by Himself, right? He said, I am that I am. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's it. And whatever else is after that I am, who He is to you, Jehovah Jireh, Elohim, Rapha, all these things at that time in that moment, just like the prodigal son came to himself. Just like Elijah came to himself in the cage. So we have to come to ourselves in the relationship with God on our own, and stop saying, because it wasn't the church that hurt you, it was the people inside that building. So we have to stop attaching the people that hurt us to this building and saying, I'm not going to church no more. Instead of saying, I'm not going to I'm going to put boundaries on myself and not allow people to come into my space like this no longer. You see what I'm saying? So I said, when people ask me for money now, I have boundaries on my bank account. Okay. Yes. I even got boundaries on my bank account.
And I have boundaries on the church.
So what motivated you to become, okay, you have a program called Walk Me Solutions Engineer. What kind of program is that? Walk Me Solutions Engineer.
That's not a program. That's not a program that I have. I want to say a past year, I've gone through a certification. A organization selected me to be one of their fellows in this engineering program. So I went through and got 3 certifications it's a software, the training software. And so that's what I do by trade. I'm an instructional designer. I teach and I develop curriculum for organizations and individuals, and I do it myself through my organization.
How long and I didn't know this. Girl, we gotta get together. We gotta get together. For real now. We gotta really get together because that's what I do. I write curriculum and content, but you can probably steer me in a better direction and get into the school system, you know. Also, I want to I want to dive a little bit deeper into your book, Wombs of Wisdom. You remind readers that they are not alone and that there is life after wounding experiences. Could you share some of the core messages and lessons from your book? What does that mean? What does that look like, Wombs of Wisdom?
First, there's three components that I always like to share. First and foremost, I always say that silence kills and speaking heals. You sit silent, you're killing yourself. You're destroying yourself. You need to speak it, get it out. You know, a lot of people say, well, you shouldn't speak negative, or you shouldn't say certain things or speak certain things into existence. Well, here's my take on it. And this is just a Dr. Monica-ism. If you keep it in, you're gonna feel dis-ease and you're gonna disease your body. So it's important, if your mind is thinking it, sometimes you need to get it out, however you need to get it out of your body so you can get to a positive state. So the premise behind my book, I often say that there is, you know, we all deal with things in life, but pain births purpose. Also, struggles birth strength, and wounds birth wisdom. There is absolutely no other way to get wisdom but to have wounds. You can't, because that's the way you're going to know for yourself. If somebody tells you something, it's not the same as if you experienced it. There's a different level of that knowledge and that experience. I go on to say that whatever you have experienced, you've experienced. If it pains you, it pains you. What you have been through and how you feel is something that cannot be negated, and you shouldn't even bother debating it. And the reason why is because nobody can tell you what you feel, where you've walked, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. That's your feelings. And until when you are not allowed to deal with those feelings and have to suppress those feelings, that's when you begin to have issues with mental illnesses. You don't know who you are. You go through depression. You may have suicidal ideations, all sorts of other things that are negative because you're too busy conform to everybody else. So sometimes you have to just step out of, you know, be alone. Alone is the place that you're going to find who you are. You're going to find out who your friends are, who your friends aren't. You're going to find out who God is, who God isn't. And a lot of times what we've been told, we really don't know. I mean, we've been told it, but do we know it? So I am very careful about the things I say, because if I don't know, emphasis on KNOW, then I don't want to speak it. I don't care how much I believe it. If I don't know it, I'm going to preface it, because it has hurt so many people by just telling you, oh, just pray about it. Oh, just ask God. God is not giving you everything you ask for. God out joy. No, everything is not joyful. So we have to be real. At least I have to be real. And so when I have been real, that has attracted other people. And because of that, they know that they're not alone. It helps them to walk in their authentic self and be bold in who they are. Until and if something changes, they know who they are. Because God's going to let you know. You know, that inner voice is going to tell you, all right, you know, you're not going the right way. You're doing something wrong. You know, so we have to learn to get with ourselves and know ourselves. So that's the whole premises of the book. Look for that wisdom in the wound that you've gone through. Look for the strength in the struggle that you've been through. Look for the purpose in that pain. Now, it doesn't mean that you just discredit or just have to be positive about it. Be real. And I don't think the world allows us to be real. That's part of our, you know, when you become real, when you reach 40, 50, 60, you know, when you get to really find out who you are. And we have to flip that and teach children not to conform, but let's find out who this child is instead of trying to get everybody to take go down the same path. College isn't for everybody. Everybody's not going to be a doctor or lawyer.
Mm.
You know, everybody's not going to be an entrepreneur. So we have to allow people to be who they are. God made us all unique. But we still trying to get everybody to conform, believe the same thing, you know, look the same way, have the same thoughts. And guess what? In reality, none of us really know until we cross over and get there.
Girl, you are you full of wisdom, okay? I'm over. I don't know what to ask you because you just so Marcia, do you have anything to say? Caitlin said hello, mommy. I guess you are so amazing that people coming into your interview, Dr. Jackson. Marcia, do you want to say anything to this beautiful woman of God, because she is on fire?
Yeah, I have a lot to say, but I'm just going to try to keep it short. You just made so many good points. You know, when you were talking about the church, made me think back when COVID first came into existence, or when we first came into the knowledge of COVID. But one of the good things that COVID did was it closed the church building. So it tore down the walls of the church, and it forced us to be the church, because we couldn't meet in this designated place. And so we had to be the church. And then you talk about, you know, instead of us being spiritual, instead of being religious. That's one of the things that I grew up with, because I grew up as a CME. You know, I grew up in the CME church, and it was a certain way of doing things, and never understanding why you're doing it, just doing it because somebody told you, well, this is the way it's supposed to be done, only until we get later in life that we get bold enough to ask these questions. And yes, you cannot you have to read the word for yourself. You have to read it and understand it for yourself, instead of taking somebody else's interpretation of it, because that's basically what it is. That's basically what people do in church. They give you their version, and then you believe that, but you don't know what it said for you. So that's just part of it. But everything, all of the other wisdom, the points that you made, I want you to go over that again. I want you to put your book in the so I can get it. This is just good. Tammy, I didn't mean to come on this interview, but man, this is good.
And you know what? I'm glad you're on, because I do want to touch on something. And it's a little controversial, but again, because I have gone through my wounds, I question everything. I have a question about every single thing. One of the things I did say is that I went to school of ministry for 2 years. And I went because, one, I didn't understand. Some things didn't make sense to me. Logically, it didn't make sense. I'm a very, you know, black and white type of person. I don't deal well in gray. I don't understand that gray, so I can't just say, okay, this is what it means. Because if I read something, everybody has a totally different interpretation of that. I still don't understand or have the understanding that I desire. Now, guess what? I no longer go back or try to fit in to a place that doesn't receive me or doesn't welcome me.
Right.
I don't try it.
Right.
So I haven't been to church in a long time. And guess what? I'm so much at peace. I'm so much at joy. The Lord has provided for me abundance above and beyond. Now, I'm not knocking anybody that goes to church, but church doesn't work for me. I talk about 5 different churches in this book. I even attempted to reach out and went on vacation and go to a different church and reach out to pastors and say, hey, guess what? I'm struggling. I need somebody to talk to.
Right.
Okay. But guess what? Did I get a response back? And I'm not talking about just one pastor. I'm talking about several. What pastor actually reaches out to me at this point? Dr.
Right.
Monica, are you okay? Dr. Monica, do you need anything? Do you have food? Roof over your head? Who genuinely cares? And I found out, the thing that I thought that God was leading me to church, certain churches, that was my misunderstanding. Mm-hmm. He was pulling me away from them. Mm-hmm. And there were certain things, when people say that little flutter in your heart, when you feel certain things, that flutter was my warning. I didn't know it. I looked at that flutter as, this is God's confirmation. No, it was a warning. So I talk about one of the churches that I went to, and one of the things that I noticed for the past, I want to say 5 churches in 6 months, or over a 6-month time, God literally pulls me out of that church ministry or sits me down for 6 months and has me watch and observe. Literally 6 months on the past 5 churches. And I even say in this book, the last church I literally joined and thought I was supposed to be at, I was there, and then COVID struck, literally 6 months afterwards. And I said, Lord, is this your way of telling me not to go back? You know, and I'm like, you know, and so I started paying attention to patterns. I started to write things. I mean, I always wrote down, but when you journal, I encourage people to journal, because your journal, you journal, you go back and look at that journal, answers are on those pages. They're on those pages. So, again, I don't try to fit in anymore. I used to feel real guilty about not going to church. Oh, I'm backsliding, I'm going to hell, and I'm going, well, here's my thing even on that. I've never been to heaven or hell to tell you if it exists or if it's there or not. That's just where I am. I can't tell you. So I can't try to lead somebody somewhere that I've never been before. How about lead somebody somewhere when we can't even lead our family in unity? We can't lead our co-workers. We can't get along harmoniously here. And we suppose all want to be up in this heaven with all these other people who calling all this chaos and so I don't understand it. I don't comprehend. So again, my walk right now is so different than a lot of people. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of people, because the book has drawn a lot of people, because this has been their reality too. So that's little. So I wanted to talk about that, that church portion of that.
Yeah. Oh, and just hearing that, you know, I know a lot of people, and this is something that, you know, one thing I did as a young woman, went to church because that's how you're trained to do. You're trained to go to church. And even when you meet people, when you start new relationships, what's one of the first things you ask people? Do you go to church? Where do you go? Why does it matter? The question should be, do you believe in God? Do you follow Jesus? It should have nothing to do with the building, but that's what we associate it with. And then that's what we put people in those categories of being Baptist, Methodist, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So it just makes a whole division. So yeah, I can understand why some people don't go, but just because you don't go to a building does not believe you're not in the fellowship.
Correct.
Well, my thing is, I do believe that we're all on our own personal journey with God. And once we understand that and understand that it is, when you say individuality, we do need to work on ourselves as individuals and what's going on inside ourselves as individuals, and fixing those wounds and allowing God to fix them and mend them, right? So while we're on this journey, and at the same time, because if we don't fix ourselves, how are we going to fix, because ourselves is a collective of a community, right? So as we work focusing on ourselves as individuals and not look at self-care as not being selfish, and understand that loving yourself, you can extend love to others, because how you feel about yourself and how you look at yourself is a reflection of how you treat others. Everything that we expound out towards the world is what's going on the inside of us.
That's it.
And what we're triggered by, that wound that she's talking about. So how do you encourage audience to face reality head on and embrace their truth and disappointments like you have with the church, and setbacks, rather than covering them up or pretending they don't exist? So what do you tell people, like, don't cover up, don't mask up, but face it head on? How do you tell people to face it head on and encourage them to keep going?
Well, a lot of times when you have to deal with situations, you can't go to places that are familiar to help you deal with those things, because they're thinking the same things that you think. They were brought up in the same thought pattern. So you have to go outside of that. You can't, because if, you know, even with girlfriends, if, you know, your circle, you are with them because there's a commonality. You know, you're with them because they think somewhat like you, they align somewhat like you. And so therefore, they're a reflection to a certain degree. So you're not going to get any more from them than what's there. So you have to go outside. One of the things when I was really going through my wounds is you have to get out. Just get out with the people. Just, it can be walking in a park, a mall, wherever. And when somebody asks you how you are doing, you say, I'm not doing well today.
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
good. I'm not good. That's going to tell you who you can talk to and release to. Because some people say, oh, okay, have a good day. Some people don't even hear you when you say you're not doing well. Other people will say, wait a minute, let's have a conversation. What's going on? Those are the people that you vent to. And those are the strangers, because guess what? Those strangers can't judge you. You don't know them. They don't know you, and you're getting it out.
That's good.
Getting it out. I'm not looking for, I probably won't see them anymore. It's not about being embarrassed. It's not about my image. It's about, I got to get this hurt, this debilitating hurt that's wounding me and causing me to stay in places and think and see things or hear things. So I have to get around people. For me, what worked for me was the strangers. It was the strangers who came to my rescue. It was the strangers who made sure that I was okay. Walking on the beach and someone says, hey, welcome to, God told me to pray for you. And I look at her like, okay, wait a minute. You know what kind of shape I'm in right now? And I said, no, maybe you should ask me if I want you to pray for me. I said, no. And we have a conversation. Why did you feel that God told you to pray for me? So we're going to have this conversation first before I'm allow you to pray for me. And I can tell. So again, we have to learn to talk. And when we talk, you'll be surprised at the people you encounter. Now, whether these were angels or people God sent my way, but these strangers were the ones who helped me through, because I look forward to getting out of the house and going and speaking and encountering new people so that I could release. And once I released, I came back home and that burden wasn't as painful anymore. It wasn't gone, but I can deal with it more. I could function. And a lot of times people can't function because we get so caught up in expectations. I have no expectations anymore of anyone, any place. I have requirements. Requirements are what I feel in my boundaries is what I can control. I can't control expectations because that's somebody else and what they choose. So I encourage people to replace expectations with requirements. And so that's in all areas, whether it's a workplace. I don't even have the expectation for my job to be fulfilling. I don't have an expectation to move up corporate ladder. I don't have the expectation to be paid what I'm worth, okay? Because I have to look at what that purpose is of me being on that job, okay? So if I need to eat, keep a head over, roof over my head, if I accepted that job and doing that, then I need to fulfill those requirements. I'm not going to allow myself to be stressed out because they're not giving me an increase. They're not recognizing who I am and what I bring to the table. Guess what? I accept that, and I move on to where I feel that I am respected, and I stay where I need to stay until. So all this battle that we do about things that we can't control, that's part of our problems. Sometimes you have to accept some things for what they are. You control the things you can and let go of what you can't. So that's what I literally encourage people to do. A lot of times we're too busy trying to fit in or help, certain situations and certain people and environments fit into our ideology of things. So again, I shift your paradigm in thinking and replace expectations with requirements. First of all, you have to know yourself to know what you require.
Yeah.
Well,
and don't.
Girl, listen. We have to, I like that, the requirements and expectations, because we expect so much out of people. But at the end of the day, we don't expect nothing out of ourselves. So at the end of the day, we have to go back to learn how to rescue ourselves, go into God, and not lean on. I think sometimes we allow people to be a crutch in our lives. putting burdens on others, even your best friend, your closest friend. We need to find a neutral person. That's how I would deal with like a circumstance or facing like setbacks and things like that. Learning how to pick myself back up, learning how to rescue myself, learning how to hold myself accountable, because we have to realize we put so many expectations on other people. When have you committed anything to yourself?
Correct.
Have you committed even getting up in the morning when you say you was going to get up? Have you committed writing that book? Have you committed to those things? But we expect so much out of other people. We have to learn how to extend grace to ourselves too.
Correct.
And forgive ourselves of the things that we have done to others. Because we ask them for forgiveness from other people. Have you forgiven that person or those people or that, you know, that organization? You know what I'm saying? Also going forward, your writing talent was recognized as I was reading your book. And I saw that you had started writing at a young age. How has writing been an essential part of your journey thus far?
Well, you know, going back when I was in second grade, I wrote an essay, and it was entitled "I Am Somebody," and I'm literally looking for that. I'm looking for that essay because I know I have it in my garage. I have all of my report cards from elementary school and everything. I physically know what that essay is written in, so I need to find it. But my second grade teacher submitted it to KABC Channel 7, and I won an essay for that, for writing it as second grade. I am somebody. And so I think I've always grown up knowing that I am somebody. I tell people, I love, and again, this may sound weird, I love myself more than I love anybody else. I genuinely do. And I always tell people, love yourself enough to love yourself. Here's the reason why. When you love yourself and you know what love feels like for yourself, you're going to reject anything that doesn't feel like love, that you know is not love. But you have to learn to love yourself first, not second, not last, not putting everybody else ahead of you. And I know as mothers, sometimes, you know, we're told, oh, put your children first. Well, you know what? Parenting is more about you than it is those children. It's about your level of discipline. It's about you. So when parents have their children and you have all these children and all of these extracurricular activities, you know, I used to tell my daughter, no, dear, you only have one activity you can choose. Why? Because mama not running all the way around the world and taking you here and taking you there. Mama still has to have a life. And too many parents live through their children. They lose themselves and lose their life. Okay. And so when your child upsets you, or when your child does something that hurts you, and it will hurt, trust me, it will, it's gonna hurt. It's hard to release, it's hard to let go. I had to learn to let go and let God, okay? And a lot of people say it, but until you've gone through some stuff, you won't know it until you have to, and your life depends on it. So I'm speaking to those mothers and those fathers who's holding on to these children. They have a mind of their own. They have a choice. They make choices that maybe they shouldn't make. And you've raised them. They're adult. Let them be. And if they come back, okay. If they don't, be okay with it. And that, again, that's that where I go back to expectations versus requirements. That's not an easy thing, but until you have gone through some things, some life-threatening things, and it's my life or my foolish child's decisions and choices, I'm choosing me every time. So I hope that resonated with someone.
Well, how do you approach the delicate process of unlearning then, and deconstructing discrepancies and falsehoods and things like that you learned while growing up in the church, and how has it impacted your spiritual journey?
The unlearning has been very difficult, but what I had to do is, again, I had to analyze what was I told, what was I taught, who taught me that, who told me that, what does their life look like, what does their walk look like? Okay. And that's the example. So if that person or that individual has taught me something and their lifestyle is not aligned with that, that's where conflict comes in. So the conflict comes in at that point. Now it's up to me to say, okay, I got to try to find out what the truth is. Now, whatever that truth is, I may still not get to it and I still don't have definitives. So in that, because God gave us this thing on top of our shoulders to think with, I have to use that. You know, a lot of times we say, don't lean on our own understanding. Sometimes this is all I have. This is all I have to lean on. If I'm praying and I'm saying, hey, Lord, you know, should I take this job or that job? And he's not saying, he's not telling me. I have to lean on my own understanding at that point and say, okay, well, you gave me this mindset, and now I have to choose the best of these based on what I know. And if I've made an error, then, you know, you steer me in the right way. So, you know, we can't just pray and just sit around and wait. Well, I can't just sit around and pray. I'm not just waiting, because I don't get a response that way. And so, again, our unlearning is being able to confront reality, ask questions, and receive and accept those answers, whatever that answer is, yes, no, maybe, or I don't know, and then make a decision and live with that decision, and make sure you understand that if you've made an error, that you're okay to admit that you made that error and regroup. A lot of people are too afraid to say, I don't know. I say, I don't know a whole lot now. Miss Dr. Monica with a PhD. I say, I don't know a lot. And I do so because people think that because you have a title or because you hold, you had certain accomplishments, you're supposed to know certain things. Well, I also have put that on myself. Because I had a certain level of attainment, I couldn't say I didn't know certain things, okay? Because I didn't want to be embarrassed by what people thought I should know because I had this attainment. Just because you have a title don't mean you know everything. And sometimes people live on that title, whether it's doctor, pastor, attorney. None of us are all knowing. And so we have to be careful and be real and authentic. And I see my girl on here, Miss Omega. Hey, beautiful. She's watching. But you know, it's important to be who we are. And the only way we know who we are is by going through some things. And when you get tired of being tired and sick and tired of your own mess, that's when you will make some changes and unlearn those things.
People in my house watching the show, like, just come on the show. Marcia, do you have anything to say to this young lady? Because I mean, my co-host came in. I'm telling you, God is doing a new thing. Every week is something different. Girl, we was on Zoom the other week. Go ahead, Marcia. You have anything or any questions for her?
Yes, I actually did. I'm going to double back to expectations, Dr. Monica. I really liked what you said about that. And I got a question. I just kind of wanted you to, elaborate a little bit. Do you think that we expect more from people due to the lack that's within us?
Do you think no? No, I think it's our upbringing. We were told what we're supposed to believe. We were told how we're supposed to act. We're told how we're supposed to. You go to school, you get married, you don't fornicate, you live happily ever after, but nobody told us how to get from point A to point B. And then if you did any of that along the way, you're ostracized, you're labeled with a scarlet letter. So our expectations come because our upbringing, whether we were taught in the church or the family taught us, whatever, because we were molded. We were molded into who we are, and we were never allowed to be ourselves. I don't care how many people say, oh, just let them be. No, nobody was ever allowed to be themselves, because we always want to put people into this box. Case in point, just a kindergarten, going to school. Not every 5-year-old is ready for school. Some of them need remediation. Some of them need preschool. Mm-hmm. So we trying to put everybody into these. Now, I'm an educator. School don't work for everybody. You may have to teach people differently. You have to meet them where they are. And that takes a lot of work. Imagine having 25 students in your class and they all learn differently. But our curriculum is written for one person to learn this one way exactly. But what about the child who has ADHD? What about the child who's autistic? Okay, how do we teach them? No, we want to drug them. We want to give them, these IEHPs and give them all these things. Maybe there's nothing really wrong with that child. And I'm speaking from experience because I was a mentor for a chairperson for a student who was in his doctoral program getting his doctorate degree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't know he had autism. Who am I? How can I serve him well when I don't know anything about autism to serve? I haven't been trained. Mm-hmm. So we weren't even properly aligned. We were setting that student up to fail. The frustration on both ends, okay? The frustration on me not knowing he was autistic, and then once I found out he was autistic, I didn't know how to teach him any differently. I didn't know how to respond any differently. I only did what I knew to do. So again, our expectations come because we were shaped in mold, right, wrong, or indifferent.
That's so true. Catrice said, or the child that's hungry and can't focus. And we don't think about those things. We got children that's coming from different environments, that's hungry, that's being abused, not only maybe physically, but also a product of their environment because their parents might be addicted to some type of drug or even addicted to a person. Because, we're going to be addicted to people in relationships. Yep. So it just all depends. Girl, I absolutely love you. I love your hair, by the way, too. And your smile.
Thank you.
What advice would you give the aspiring authors and speakers who aim to use their expertise to empower and uplift others?
Well, when I started writing book, I think can't remember what book number this is, but I used to have a publishing company, and that publishing company literally was birthed out of the church. I was the newsletter ministry president of my church for many, many years. So I look back, God was preparing me to write. He was preparing me to do graphics. I did all of that for many years. I went into that field. A lot of people, and no discredit, however you want to do it and however you want, a lot of people write books with the intent of becoming famous, becoming a next celebrity, the next best author, make $1 million. And I'm not saying it's not possible, but all I'm going to tell you is good luck chasing that dream. I'm not saying it's not possible, but that's not a dream that Dr. Monica is trying to chase. Now, if the book sells 1 million copies, I make $1 million, I am so happy, but it's not my focus. The reality of writing books, a lot of times the book is about you, but it's not about you. I always even say this, I don't want anybody purchasing my book that's not going to read the book. And the reason why the book is literally purpose driven. It's a purpose in it. I'm not trying to sell you a book. It's very rare that I even talk about the book. I mean, I talk about it, but I don't talk about it. Because when people ask me, well, why did I get through certain things or how did I survive? I have to go back to this book. And this book is foundational for everything that's propelling me to do now, that I'm doing now. So again, look at the purpose for you writing that book. Look at the purpose for writing the book. And one of the things that always, and I just want to tell people, if anybody's listening out there who's an author, please don't ask me to buy your book. And here's the reason why. I will donate and I will give you, I may donate the money, but here's the issue with me. I don't want to buy a book because if I'm not going to read it. And it doesn't mean that there's nothing wrong with the book. It's just that I know that I'm not going to read it. So I can't buy everybody's book and I don't need all these books stacked up. So I'd rather donate to someone and they can give it to someone who they know is going to read it. Also, I found that many books are poorly written. So therefore, I don't spend my money on something that is horribly written. So I just don't. So it's not a lack of not supporting anybody, just for any authors. I'm not looking for somebody to support me by purchasing my book. I'm not looking for family and friends to purchase this book because family's going to be offended by the book. Friends going to be offended by the book. That's not who I'm trying to reach. Okay. They're at some point, they are the source of wounds. So of course, if they're the source of wounds, they're not going to read it. Now, I don't mention anybody's name, so anybody know I didn't mention your name. But if you read it, and you know me, you know who you are. So when people read the book, they say, ooh,
Period,
that sounded
Sue.
like me.
Period. You know who you is.
Yeah,
Okay?
you know? So that's what, so when you write the book, know the reason and the purpose you're writing the book. And I wouldn't say that it's for any of those things that I mentioned, because, you it just, again, if that's your focus, that's fine. That's too stressful for me. That's too stressful. But
And write the book for yourself. It's your
yes,
story.
yes,
It's your
right.
it's your healing process. So you're
Right.
going through your healing journey. You're going through this
Yes.
story, and it gives you a moment to think and reflect on some things and go back, because we got to go back to the beginning a lot of times. God
Yes.
had me go back to the beginning, to Genesis. And I'm all up in Joseph's business. I'm like, I done picked up Joseph's mantle, Lord. Anyway, y'all didn't try to throw me in a pit, but God.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm excited that you came. I'm excited that you said yes. Is there anything that you have that you're doing right now, or have anything coming up? What are you doing now, and what you have going on?
Right now, I have, I'm going to talk about two projects. The first one is, in May, I did a summit. It was T4 Summit, Trials, Triumphs, Truths, and Tears. And that was 2.5 days with 8 speakers. And they talked about the things that they've gone through. So if you've heard me speak, you hear my truth. I only select speakers that are speaking in truth. Not anybody else, we're not talking about you have to conform, no judgment. I don't even care if you say a few swear words. And here's the reason why. I mean, again, we're taught that certain language isn't good. But guess what? Man is the one who made that language not good. Look how many words are acceptable now that were profanity that you can speak on TV now. So if everybody starts embracing certain terms, guess what? They're no longer profanity. So if you let something slip, I don't get offended. Some people get really offended by people's, their language. You know what? I just kind of let it go in and out the other. It used to offend me. But guess what? In the bigger scheme of things, let them speak. Maybe my walk and who I am may transform their tongue. Let me be the example. So that was the T4 Summit about. Now, when the women and men opened up at this summit, and I saw one particular man really holding back. He wouldn't speak his truth. Again, trying to uphold this image, like I got it going on. And then you saw another man speak his truth and literally shed tears and didn't care about what anybody thought. I said, you know what? I have to duplicate this summit with all men speakers. So in September, I have the M4 Summit. It's Men, Message, Mission, Movement. Men with a message on a mission, creating a movement. And these men are talking about their sexual abuse, homosexuality, mental illness, having children with special needs, losing business, being sued and having a $216 million lawsuit, bankruptcy, all sorts of things, big sex trafficking, how, wounded in the church because you were homosexual, all these different things. And I can't tell you the response for that has been. What I'm seeing now is not just, like I said, these are 11 men. I put out a questionnaire, a call for men to speak. I received more responses than I ever wanted or could handle. So what that told me, a lot of women feel like men don't speak, men don't communicate. That's not true. These men are speaking, and these women need to show up. Why? Because you need to hear what men are going through and men's thoughts from a man, not from what society has taught you, not even what we're told a man should be. Because we're putting expectations on men that in this day and age, they cannot be. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying, well, I shouldn't say they cannot be. I shouldn't say they cannot be. They aren't able to be right now. Mm-hmm. For instance, we know we're in this recession. The man, we claim that the man is supposed to be the head of the household and finance it. But the woman wants to sit home and do absolutely nothing. Okay, look at the stress you put on that man by making him go out and find a job when you may have more education, more experience to bring in more money. But because we want to define manhood a certain way and womanhood a certain way. Is it fair for the men? So no wonder they're committing suicide. No wonder they are addicted. No wonder they're stepping out of their marriages. And I'm not condoning any of this, is what I'm saying. But it's no wonder that they are looking for relief because they can't get it in their mate, because we don't understand them. And so this event, this M4 Summit, is for men to speak their truth. And I'm so grateful for these 11 men who have trusted me enough to speak their truth. And when I say they're speaking truth, it's their truth is so raw and so real. Like I said, they dropping some 4-letter words. I don't have any problems with it. And the reason why, if that's how that man talks, if I can help him to speak his truth so he can heal and be the man for the woman he needs to be for, then that's the purpose of this summit. So I want men and women to register because, again, we don't know what we don't know. We've been fed a lot of stuff. We need to hear the cries of our men.
Mm-hmm.
And hear it. I mean, genuinely hear it. Too many of us, and you hear about my marriage and divorce in here. I had a checklist. He had to have this. I got everything on my checklist. How many women can say that? I got everything on my checklist. Ooh, I thought I was, ooh, yes. Ooh, this the man from God. No, guess what? I got all of that, but I got everything else that I didn't check, that I didn't know anything about. So we have to be real careful. Look at people for who they are, where they are. And we have to understand, not condone, not put up with, but what are you bringing to the table to complement that man? So a lot of women just don't, I mean, we just don't know. We don't know. We genuinely don't know. And guess what? How are we going to know if you have been fed it from somewhere else other than from the horse's mouth, so to speak? So I invite and encourage women. You can go over to drmonicajackson.com/M4 Summit and register for this summit. Because I want you to think. I want you to think for yourself. Let me hear what this man is saying. Let me hear what I'm receiving. Allow myself to feel. Allow myself to think. Okay, how does that conflict with what I thought or my expectations? Okay. You know, we have mapping our life. I want to be this, and this, and this. Okay, well, guess what? But did you think about all the things in between that can distract or take you off path? How do you deal with that? We haven't learned to deal with conflict. So guess what? You see angry men. You see angry men because that's all they know. They're told not to cry. If they do, they're a wuss. Told to man up. But guess what? When we're saying man up, it's really man down. You're putting him down already. How can he? He's a man. He feels. We don't allow our men to feel. And he doesn't feel comfortable feeling. So when you come into this relationship and you have this pie in the sky fantasy, we even have a relationship coach who's a speaker. And he's going to talk about his fantasies and his sabotages that he went through thinking what relationships should be. And then how all of that baggage that came with it. And again, as I said before, pain births purpose. That pain that he went through with his relationships birthed him to become a relationship coach.
Girl.
So
you said silence
kills,
speaking
heals.
What did you say? Silent what?
Silence kills, speaking heals.
Oh, silent kills, speaking heals. That's what I got out of the whole thing this whole time of being here with you. Because we have to speak our truth.
Right.
We have to speak our truth. We have to find the truth. My foundational scripture is Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and everything else will be added unto you. So if you want wisdom, whatever you need is in the book. Take a look, The Reading Rainbow.
Okay. Yeah, and here's the thing about it. But before people can seek the kingdom, they have to know themselves, because they don't know themselves to get to the kingdom. And so that's one of the problems is people want you to jump from where you are and jump to this kingdom. And so now you feel deficient because you're not at the same level of your Christianity or your walk as everybody else. So now you're embarrassed.
It goes back to that expectation again. We expect everybody to be where we already are. When we got to understand that we have to get there too. You know what I'm saying? It's a process for all of us, including myself.
Yes.
So if it was a process for me, why shouldn't it be a process for them? You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And that goes back to extending grace.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Is there any last words you want to say before we wrap this up? Dr. Monica, you got a lot of good comments out here. Yes, speak Dr. Monica, and I love her too. She's 100% truth. They talk about the summit here. Everybody's agreeing with everything that you've been saying. You have anything else?
You know, and here's the thing about it. I don't say anything for agreement or disagreement. I just speak my truth. This is my reality. And I encourage people to do that because guess what? Nothing I can say. You can't debate it. If you do, I'm not going to entertain it because it's not going to change anything until it's time for me to change it. So again, it's not the stubbornness. It's just that, you know what? I have to be me and I have to be accountable to me. And I encourage people, you know, if you don't do anything else today, find out who you are. Find out why you believe what you believe. Find out why you think what you think. And find out what you need to change. Because now that's going to be a wake-up call for a lot of people. Finding out, because a lot of us have just walked through and gone through life. You know, one of the things I say in my book is my family taught me that blood is not thicker than water. That was a hard thing to accept. But they taught me that. It was up to me to receive it or not. That was a hard thing. But guess what? Now that I received it, what do I do with where I am now? So we have to deal with the reality. And I encourage people, deal with the reality of where you are. Take it day by day. Take it day by day. We're too busy trying to look at, you know, and turn off the TV. Turn off the TV and this news and things. We can't change a lot of stuff that's going on. Stop, let out in your spirit. Live and let live. Cast your vote and let it go. Let it go. So again, just first of all, if you do nothing else today, know yourself and then give yourself permission to love yourself first, not second, not third, not last, and make time for yourself. Pamper yourself. Do something for yourself. And register for this summit. Tell somebody about the summit.
Make sure you put the information in the comments. Marcia, do you have anything to say before we wrap it up?
No, I have enjoyed listening.
I want you to find this essay, I Am Somebody, but I want you to go to Holy Spirit and ask that, because he might be doing a new thing with I Am Somebody, because you have found you have reassigned or realigned yourself with the divine, right? So that means you have become, you are becoming who God has called you to be. So you are in a different space, in a place of understanding who you are, right? So go back to that I Am Somebody and rewrite it. Okay. You don't have to find the old, but God is doing a new. See what I'm saying?
Right.
He might not want you to find it. He might be finding something inside of you. I am somebody.
Correct.
So I want you to revisit that, because that's amazing in itself. I am somebody. Yeah. Because we don't feel like sometimes we don't, like you said, it goes back to loving yourself.